The moment my husband flung my gift onto the dining table, dismissing it like yesterday's news, a fire sparked inside me. "What's this, Laura?" he scoffed, gesturing at the handcrafted scrapbook I'd spent weeks perfecting. "Some mushy photo album. You're wasting my time." My hands trembled, but I held my ground. "My name's Laura Mitchell. I'm 34, and I'd poured years into my marriage with Ethan, believing love meant weathering his endless critiques. That scrapbook, filled with snapshots of our vows, our adventures, our shared dreams, was my final plea to rekindle what we'd lost. But as he stood there, tearing it down, I saw the truth. He'd never truly valued me. His betrayal was about to unravel him, and I was done being his shadow. This was the moment I'd reclaim my worth, and he'd never see it coming. I steadied my breath, my voice firm despite the ache. "I thought you'd appreciate something from the heart, Ethan. It's our life together, every moment we built." He rolled his eyes, pacing our Portland loft, the city's rainy glow seeping through the windows. "Our life? I'm tired of your sappy nonsense. You could have gotten me something worthwhile, but no, you waste time on this drivel. It's pathetic." His words stung, but I refused to flinch. "Ethan, He cut me off, his tone biting. "You don't get it, Laura. This isn't working. You aren't working. I need someone who adds value, not this pitiful attempt at romance." My chest tightened. "What are you saying?" He smirked, leaning against the counter. "I'm leaving you, Laura. I've met someone, Zoe. She's 23, full of life, exciting. Everything you're not." The words slammed into me, but I held my composure. "And you think this is how you tell me?" I asked, my voice quivering but resolute. "After I poured my soul into this?" He laughed, a cold, cutting sound. "Your soul's the problem. You're all emotion, no substance. I deserve better." For a heartbeat, I sat frozen, his words ringing in my ears. Then something shifted. I laughed, not out of pain, but a genuine defiant laugh that sliced through the tension. Ethan's eyes narrowed. "What's so funny?" I stood, still chuckling, and grabbed the scrapbook. "You don't even know what you're throwing away." I flipped to the last page, pulling out a folded document tucked inside. Holding it. "Up," I said. "This is the deed to a coastal cottage I bought for us. I was going to surprise you tonight. Guess Zoe won't be sipping coffee on that porch, will she?" His jaw dropped, his arrogance crumbling. You bought a cottage." I slipped the deed into my bag, smiling. "It's mine now." Ethan's face contorted with disbelief. "You bought a house? Since when do you make moves like that?" I tilted my head, my voice calm but sharp. "Since I realized I can't count on you for anything real. While you were chasing excitement with a 23-year-old, I was building a future for us. My mistake for thinking you cared," he stammered, grasping for control. "You're blowing this out of proportion. This doesn't change anything. Zoe and I cut him off, my tone final. "Take Zoe. Take your exciting life and get out of mine. You've made it clear I'm nothing to you." I turned to our bedroom, his protests fading behind me. As I packed a small bag, I glanced at the framed photos. Our wedding, a sunset hike, moments I'd cherished. They felt like relics of a life I'd clung to too long. Ethan paced the living room, muttering about my overreaction, but I ignored him. When I returned, he stood by the door, trying to look authoritative. "You're really walking out?" he asked, incredulous. "I am," I said, brushing past. "This is absurd, Laura," he snapped. "You'll regret this." I paused at the door, turning back. "Maybe, but I won't regret staying in a marriage where I'm just your punching bag." I stepped into the damp Portland night, the air crisp against my skin. Driving away, the deed safe in my bag, I felt a weight lift. I wasn't just leaving. "Ethan, I was shedding the Laura who'd begged for his approval. He could have his fling. I was done playing the loyal wife in his self-centered drama. I headed to my best friend Hannah's place, knowing she'd listen without judgment. When she opened the door, her brow furrowed. What did he do this time? I sighed, stepping. Inside. Kitchen, please. Soon, we sat at her cozy table, a glass of Cabernet in my hand. Tell me everything, she said, leaning forward. I spilled it all, the scrapbook, Ethan's venom, his affair with Zoe, the cottage. When I got to the deed, her eyes widened. He called you pathetic after you bought a cottage for him, she said, her voice rising. And then admitted he's leaving for some 23-year-old? Laura, what the hell? I swirled my wine, nodding. That's Ethan, always so sure I'd just take it. Hannah grinned, her shock turning to pride. But you didn't. You walked out, kept the cottage. Damn, Laura, you're incredible. Her words lit a spark in me. I hadn't just left Ethan. I'd taken back my power. What's next? She asked. I exhaled, the question heavy. I don't know. I've been so focused on fixing us, I'm not sure who I am without him. She squeezed my hand. You'll figure it out. One step at a time. Crash here tonight, no debate. I smiled, grateful. Thanks, Hannah. On her couch that night, exhaustion hit, but beneath it was a quiet thrill. Ethan was no longer my problem. I'd spent years bending to his whims, and now I was free. The future was uncertain, but it felt alive with possibility. Morning brought a barrage of notifications. 10 missed calls, 20 texts, all from Ethan. Where are you? This is childish, Laura. We need to talk. I laughed at the irony. He'd discarded me, yet here he was, acting betrayed. Hannah shuffled in, coffee in hand. Ethan? I held up my phone. He's unraveling. She smirked, setting the coffee down. Good. He's not used to paying for his crap, but he is now. Later, a text from Ethan stood out. I'm coming by the house tonight. We need to fix this. The nerve. He still thought he had a claim to my home. I considered texting back, telling him to stay away, but Hannah's advice echoed, let him squirm. I ignored it and spent the day with her, running errands, laughing, rediscovering pieces of myself I'd buried. That evening, Ethan's car was in the driveway when I got home. I parked on the street, bracing myself. He was pacing the living room, his face a mix of anger and desperation. You finally showed up, he said, his tone sharp. I live here, I replied, setting my bag down. What are you doing here? His voice softened, a calculated move. We need to talk. This is out of control. I crossed my arms, leaning against the counter. What's out of control, Ethan? Me standing up for myself? Or you realizing Zoe isn't the jackpot you thought? His jaw tightened, but he sat on the couch, running a hand through his hair. I screwed up, okay? I wasn't thinking. We can work this out. I laughed, the sound sharp. Work this out? This isn't a spilled drink, Ethan. This is years of you dismissing me, expecting me to grin and bear it. You don't get to call the shots now. Laura, please, he started, but I cut him off. No, you made your choice. Live with it. I grabbed my bag and headed upstairs, leaving him speechless. The next day, I packed his things, left them by the door, and called a locksmith. When Ethan returned that evening, still smug, I met him on the porch, a folder in hand. What's this? He asked, eyeing the papers. Your stuff, I said, pointing to the suitcase. And my lawyer's contact info. She'll be in touch. His face hardened, but he couldn't resist a parting shot. You're pathetic, Laura. You'll crash without me. I smiled, unshaken. We'll see. Now get off my property. He stared, his bravado faltering, then grabbed his suitcase and left. The house felt lighter in the days that followed, like it could finally breathe. I threw myself into work, reconnected with friends, and leaned on Hannah, who was overjoyed. "Good riddance," she said, when I told her I'd kicked Ethan out. "He was a weight on you. You're free now." She was right, but late at night doubts crept in. Had I acted too rashly? Would I regret this? Those thoughts vanished when Ethan called, his voice strained. "Laura, we need to talk." "What do you want?" I asked, already done with him. "It's Zoe," he said, bitterness dripping. "She's gone." I smirked. "Oh?" He ranted, the words stumbling out. "She laughed at me, called me a fool for throwing you away, said I was an idiot for losing the cottage." I grinned. That must have stung. He pressed on, ignoring my jab. "She called me a loser, said I ruined everything. Then she walked out." The irony was rich. Ethan, who'd mocked me, now humbled by his own folly. "And you're telling me this because—" I asked, my tone icy. "I messed up, Laura. Big time. Can we talk?" I shook my head, though he couldn't see. "No, Ethan, you made your bed. Lie in it." I hung up, the silence a sweet victory. That night, sipping peppermint tea, I felt peace. Ethan's life was collapsing, but it wasn't my burden anymore. The divorce moved swiftly. My lawyer, Susan, ensured everything was ironclad. In her office, reviewing the final papers, I felt relief tinged with disbelief. "He's got no ground to stand on," Susan said, scanning the documents. "He knows he can't fight you." I smiled. Guess he's finally seen I'm not the doormat he thought. Leaving her office, I felt unencumbered. That evening, Hannah arrived with wine and her signature zest. "To Laura," she toasted, "who sent Ethan packing and took her life back." I laughed, clinking glasses. "To Hannah, who hasn't. Said, 'I told you so,' yet." She grinned. "Give it time." We talked late, my plans, her antics, Ethan's downfall. "Think he's still crying over Zoe?" she asked, smirking. "Probably," I said, chuckling. "No wife, no cottage, no fling. I almost feel bad." "Almost," she echoed, and we burst into laughter. Alone later, I reflected. The old Laura, desperate for Ethan's approval, was a stranger. I was someone new, laughing at his failures, embracing my strength. The weeks after were a whirlwind of change, but it was my whirlwind. I visited the cottage, a charming retreat by the Oregon coast, waves crashing nearby. It was mine now, not a shared hope, but a testament to my resilience. I spent a weekend there, arranging furniture, savoring the salty air. Hannah visited the next weekend, awestruck. "This place is magic," she said, spinning in the living room. "How'd you keep it under wraps?" "I wanted it perfect," I admitted, "and I was scared Ethan would taint it." She flopped on the couch. "It's perfect now, and it's all yours." Her words warmed me. I deserved this, not just the cottage, but the life I was crafting. Over the months, I rediscovered myself. I took up pottery, shaping clay into bowls that held my newfound confidence. I joined a cycling group, relishing the wind in my hair, riding for me, not to prove anything. I traveled, weekends in San Francisco's art galleries, a week in Victoria's, gardens, because I wanted to, not to check a box. Each choice was a rebellion against the Laura I'd been, the one who dimmed her light for Ethan. One evening on the cottage's porch with a glass of Chardonnay, I thought about the past. There was no bitterness, just gratitude for the lessons and the freedom they'd brought. Life found a rhythm. The cottage became my haven for quiet nights or lively gatherings with friends. Hannah visited often, her stories a joy. "You're different now," she said one night by the fire pit, the ocean murmuring beyond. "How so?" I asked, intrigued. She grinned. Old Laura was always fretting, making sure everyone else was okay. This Laura, she's calm, happy, living for herself. I laughed, sipping my wine. I learned I can't make everyone happy. Pleasing Ethan was like pouring sand into a sieve. Never enough. That freedom extended to work. I started freelancing, something Ethan had dismissed as flighty. The autonomy was electrifying. A tech startup hired me to run a branding workshop, and the experience reignited my spark. "Why not start your own firm?" the CEO asked afterward. The question echoed. Weeks later, with Hannah's cheerleading, I launched Crest Consulting. "Like the crest of a wave," Hannah said, eyes bright. "You're riding high now." Building Crest was daunting but exhilarating. Every client, every success was proof of my resilience. I was no longer defined by Ethan's doubts or my own. One night working on the porch, my phone pinged. A text from Ethan. "Can we talk?" I deleted it without a second thought. Some bridges were better burned. 6 months after leaving him, I stood on the porch, watching the sunset paint the ocean in hues of coral and violet. Crest was thriving, my calendar full but mine to shape. Hannah visited that night, bringing cupcakes. "You know," she said, setting them down, "Ethan did you a favor." I laughed, pouring wine. By being a jerk? Maybe. If he hadn't, I'd still be stuck trying to please him. She raised her glass. "To Ethan, the fool who set you free." We clinked, laughing, but her words lingered. I'd transformed, not just by escaping him, but by rediscovering myself. Under the stars, I scribbled plans. A new pitch for Crest, trips to Lisbon and Kyoto, dreams I'd once shelved. Closing the notebook, I realized I wasn't just free from Ethan. I was free from the fears that had kept me small. A month later, an email arrived. A conference wanted me to give a keynote on my entrepreneurial journey. I hesitated. Public speaking had always unnerved me. Ethan's taunts about my state, stuttering echoing. But I replied, "I'd love to." With Hannah's guidance, I crafted a raw speech. "Be real," she said. "The struggles, the victories, that's what resonates." At the conference, nerves buzzing, I stepped onto the stage. "My name's Laura, and a year ago, I couldn't imagine standing here. I was trapped, trying to please someone who didn't see me. Today, I'm here because I chose myself." The audience leaned in, some nodding, others jotting notes. I shared Crest's story, my lows and highs, my voice steady. Afterward, a woman approached, tears in her eyes. "You inspired me," she said. "Thank you for showing it's never too late to begin again." Her words anchored me, proof my story mattered. That night, on the cottage's porch, I reflected on the journey. The betrayal, the pain, the triumph. Ethan was a faded memory. His messages ignored, his hold broken. I didn't need his approval or anyone's. I'd built a life I loved, step by step, and it was just the start. The scrapbook, once a symbol of my heartbreak, was now a testament to my strength. I was writing my story, and every word was mine.